Hello everybody and welcome back to Quest 64. Last video we talked to Colleen and we spoke to her about the water jewel, which has apparently been stolen and has been thrown into the center of the ocean or something like that. So the person who stole the gem is just beyond the stone circle. So if we walk into the stone circle, you can magically break the barrier that Colleen was unable to break, and you are now underwater. This is when the game just gets super bizarre and whack, and this is when the plot really seems to have a lot of holes in it, because this is just so silly. In most games, there's no way that you could just walk through a barrier. It would make you do something in order to do so. And this chick, who apparently stole the water jewel, we know nothing about. She was just lazily thrown in, but anyways, here she is. This is Nepty, who I can't take seriously because she looks like an elf. I don't believe it. How could a trifling little human like you get through my barrier so easily? Why have you come here? It must be to see me. I possess the water jewel, and it will make me queen of the world. Humans will throw themselves at my feet and beg for mercy. Oh yes, you will too. It would make a bit more sense if she was like a mermaid or something, which she kind of has some sort of weird ears going on, but I don't really know what her deal is. Anyways, we have to fight her. I want to take a look at her stats if I can. So if we look, she's got 880 HP, which is a lot, and she's got 2 attacks. She's got her short range one, which is the one that she just used, and at long range, she throws bubbles at you. Like with Zelsi, you want to stay as far away from her as possible, and that's probably the best strategy. It's going to take you a lot longer to fight her from a distance, but if you want to stay safe, then it's definitely worth it. Wind Cutter is probably the fastest way to do this. As you can see there, she's going to fire those bubbles at you, but 2 out of 3 of them will miss, which makes this an absolute joke. And she is water, so the only spell you don't really want to use is water. Even if you have fire and you've got Fireball level 3, she's going to be really weak against that. But going with a spell like Rock level 3, Wind Cutter, Large Cutter, any of those are a good choice. And I can show off Avalanche. I'm a little bit close to her, so this should work. I mentioned in the last video that Avalanche is pretty destructive. And as you'll see here, it's going to rain rocks onto her, and it did over 100 damage because 2 rocks hit her. Now, Avalanche works a lot better in large groups, obviously, and the rocks are kind of random, so for boss battles I wouldn't really use something like Avalanche. I am going to probably just stick to Wind Cutter, and if all else fails, I'll just do exactly what I did with Zelsi. I'll just use items to heal, and hopefully outlast her. There's not really anything new or spectacular or anything particularly destructive about her that you really need to watch out for. And yeah, just go with the same strategy that I used when I fought Zels, or Zelsi, whatever you want to call them, in the forest. The one thing to keep out for is that she is going to pretty much move closer to you every single opportunity that she gets. So just keep moving. If you still have Giant's shoes, then you can use those, and I might just use them for the sake of demonstration, because we've had those, I think, since Connor Forest. They were one of the first items we got. So if you use it in battle, it'll double your range. So I now have a larger area to move around, which will hopefully allow me to get farther away from her. You can see that I have a much larger range where I can get away from her. Unfortunately, I can't move outside of the yellow area, so I'm going to have to start moving this way. And I think it's probably best for me right now to heal. I gotta watch my MP as well. But as long as I can keep away from her, that water bubble attack is just absolutely pathetic. And the great thing with Wind Cutter is no matter how far away you are, it's always going to hit your enemy. Now, of course, 1 or 2 of the wind blades might miss, but it's really great because it always goes exactly to where your enemy is, which is extremely helpful. So you can see here that she's quite tough, actually. It might have to do with the fact that I'm not really all that leveled up. Really, in retrospect, I didn't do a lot of fighting in Blue Cave. I ran away from a lot of the battles. I did do a couple of fights on this island, off-screen, but I think that if I had trained a little bit more, this might be a little bit easier for me, but I'm fairly confident I'll win. And even if I did lose, it's not like I would have to come far to fight her again anyways. It would just be a shame if I lost all those items, because right now I'm kind of trapped on this island. I can't really go anywhere until I defeat her and get the water jewel, so that's kind of a shame. If all else fails, I can basically go up to her and whack her with my staff. I think at this point my staff does about 60 damage, which is kind of what I had done with Zelsi, but as you can see, that strategy worked pretty well. A couple of close calls, but luckily I did have some items and I was able to use healing level 2. And with that, we now have the water jewel. So we need to go back and we need to speak to Colleen. And we need to tell her the good news about the jewel. And that makes it so that we have 3 out of 4 in our possession at the moment. So we only have 1 more jewel to find, which is going to be our next objective after this. So hopefully I don't get into any battles because I don't feel like fighting. Although I did get a wicked boost to my HP. I went from 157 to 173, I think. Which is really, really helpful. And I almost made it. This enemy, the Grenage, was the enemy, the 3rd or 4th enemy on this island that you can run into, and it's a new enemy. I didn't run into it last video where I was getting into a few random encounters, but nothing special. I'm not going to take the time to fight these enemies. I'm sure we'll run into them later on. Since this is the only place we've seen a few of them, I'm sure they'll make another appearance. Hey Colleen, I did your job better than you. What do you think about that? What's that you say? Broke through the barrier and recovered the water jewel? You're no average magician. I think I can entrust that jewel to you for safekeeping. Don't lose it. I have guarded the water jewel for generations in hopes of one day handing it over to a great magician. I hope you are the one. Take it now and get this pirate out of my sight. Oh, come on, you got a little thing going on. Don't even try to deny it. Har, so that's the water jewel, is it? I bet that could fetch a fancy price. A pirate would love to get his hands on it, but the sorceress would get angry with me. Oh yeah, it would be real fun to tease the sorceress. Well, maybe I might take it just to see her face turn red. Over my dead body you will. I worked hard for that. And after you defeat the boss, this back door that was previously you're unable to go through it, you can now go through it. Our final spirit on this island is here. And I guess I'll put the point into water. And then you can take the warp, and you can go back to Epona's house and speak to her, and tell her the good news as well. You've obtained the water jewel, I see. The truth is, that gem is not all it seems. Shut inside it is the power of the Eltel book. That means if you are not worthy, overwhelming forces will be released. But if you use your strength correctly, you can triumph over all. It is now up to you, Master Brian. You were the spirit's chosen one from the time you picked up the crystal. I would not have wished such a thing upon one so young. Now you can return to town from the stone circle. Be careful as you go. Well, thanks. They're not really helpful, but thanks, I guess. The stone circle that she's referring to is this one. It's not really a stone circle, it's more of a crystal circle, but if you step through the middle, it will conveniently bring you back to Larapool, which is pretty nice. I think I'm also out of bread. I'll have to get some honey bread somewhere else, because we are going to be doing a bit of backtracking fairly soon. But I guess now that we're here, we should speak to Leela, and maybe even Shannon might have something to say. Because we don't really know where to go next. Huh, she's not in that room. Okay, she must be downstairs in the shrine room. She must be down here. I should speak to her and see what she says. Hopefully it's not the same dialogue. I usually don't bother talking to these characters, but for the sake of the Let's Play, I will. My task is to protect you as you travel, but your quest is so difficult that our weak powers may not be enough to help you. Yeah, real helpful. I like that they openly admit that while they've guarded these gems for generations, they're absolutely weak and pathetic. And a 10-year-old boy has more power than the 4 of them combined. I guess that makes me feel a little bit better about myself, but it's still annoying that I have to do all of their work for them. What does Shannon have to say? Do you know your own power, Master Brian? An ordinary magician could never command so many spells at once, only one who is favored by the spirits. Ah, so we're definitely getting stronger, and we've received the blessing from many of the other magicians, and we're coming up to the last jewel, so we've made an astonishing amount of progress, even though it doesn't really feel like it, just because they're giving you task after task after task with really no direction on where it is that you're supposed to go. But we're gonna do some more stuff in the next video. We're gonna do some backtracking and picking up a couple of things before we move on and we find our 4th jewel. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.